to Washington, a New Jersey political tradition. Today, hundreds of state decision makers hopped a train to D.C. to talk business and politics with some of their biggest backers. RFL's Richard French was aboard the train. He spoke with Assemblyman Vincent Prieto about Bridgegate earlier today.
Here we are, actually stopped on the train here in New Brunswick here on our way down to Washington for the 77th annual Walk to Washington trip, and we're very pleased to be joined by our first live guest today here, the Speaker of the Assembly, Vincent Prieto. And first of all, thank you for joining us, and secondly, interesting fire you were thrown into right off the job, obviously, with the investigation that's going on. So for our audience, why don't you give the latest status of it? There's a lot of investigative bodies going on right now, but talk about it from the legislative side, where the investigation stands right now, and where you hope it'll go in the next few months.
Well, when I came in, the biggest thing was putting together the committee, and we did a joint committee with the Senate. And the way I looked at it, and I still do to today, you know, everybody's innocent to proven guilty. They'll find whatever they're going to find. So that committee needed to be in place right away, for the reason being is that I have to make sure we keep governing, and we have to work with the governor on many other things, and we have to budget to go through. We have a $34.4 billion budget to go through. So right now the investigation, there's other agencies where there's the U.S. attorneys is looking into it, and our legislative, for our purposes, we want to know what happened, if things we need to correct so it doesn't happen again, if there was any type of abuse of power by anybody, because those positions are being filled by somebody else, and we want to make sure this doesn't happen again. And as a legislative body, it is our responsibility to make sure we put laws in place for this not to happen. So this will lead where it needs to go. I leave that to the two co-chairs of where the investigation is right now. So they're going through tons of documents, and they're going to be bringing in people for testimony, and then we'll keep it going. So I've sort of let that really manifest itself, and then that way I can keep doing what I need to do.
Concerned at all that there's a lot of duplication going on right now with so many investigative bodies, including those on the federal level that have more subpoena power than you folks do, that this is more of a distraction on the legislative investigative side, since other people are already interviewing some of the witnesses you guys hope to hear from?
Right. So that's a balance we have to give. We have to make sure we don't impede or become an obstacle for another investigative body as the U.S. attorney, that could be more criminal. But I would tell you, us as a legislative body, it is our obligation to find out what happened, because a lot of things in other investigations, you will never know what the outcome of is. Ours will be a transparent system that we will let the people know what happened.
I've heard from folks who say, as long as the investigation goes on, Trenton grinds to a halt. Is that a fair and legitimate worry here, that you have a paralyzed governor politically who really can't do some of the deals he needs to do with the legislature while this investigation is ongoing?
I would tell you that I would disagree with that, because from my perspective, I think we need to keep governing. As you see, the governor and I have disagreed on certain items, and we're actually negotiating through them right now. Listen, that is a thing that will take care of itself. Again, we need to govern. We have a $34.4 billion budget that was proposed by the governor. We need to make sure government runs. We need to make sure those services are there. I don't think in any way, shape, or form this does anything.
Finally, you talk to a lot of the mayors. You talk to a lot of the folks in the local levels. I've heard from some of the folks, hey, we like what the governor says, that he wants to raise revenue, but not through taxes, but they're concerned that services are going to get hamstrung on the local level. Where are you guys going to find the money to make up the shortfall?
Nobody wants to talk about, the T word. Tax word is a bad word, but we have to make sure that, services are there. We have additional obligations every year. We need additional revenues. We have to start thinking that going for our transportation infrastructure is not the right way. We do have to look at the taxing to a certain extent, but we don't want to kill people. We're number one in property taxes in the nation. We have to work on that. We have to figure out how we do it, and do it in the right way, consolidating maybe services, but doing it in a mindful manner so mayors have the ability to be able to deliver those services that we all want and need at the local level.
Thank you so much, Matt. Mr. Speaker, I appreciate it.
RFL's Richard French there. Now, FIOS 1 News reporter Kimberly Wallace was also in Washington today. She's got even more from the train ride.
Getting to meet with people, talk to people, there's always new and different ideas, fresh ideas.
The Verizon Breakfast kicked off the Walk to Washington event held in the spring for the first time.
I went on the train maybe 30 times. You know, I loved it because you meet a lot of people in government, a lot of people in business.
In addition to the 800 lawmakers, the train carried corporate executives and nonprofit leaders to the nation's capital.
It's good that we all sort of joined together, Republicans, Democrats, independents, you know, realizing that we're all in the same army, fighting the same war.
I think it's very important for those of us in the legislature and in government to continue to interact with our business community, to understand their needs. And that type of communication is always positive.
Although it's actually a 4-hour train trip each way, the 2-day event is called the Walk to Washington because no one ever really sits down.
Nobody sits in their seat. It's a great networking schmooze event. This event started 77 years ago when our founding fathers of the board of directors decided that they wanted to take a trip down to the nation's capital to meet our congressional delegation.
It's a unique networking venue allowing riders to rub elbows throughout the 13 Amtrak cars, shaking hands and exchanging business cards with people they might not otherwise be able to meet.
A lot of people, you get to bounce into, talk to a bunch of people.
It's really doing a lot to help network the New Jersey economy to be competitive.
The day is capped off with a keynote address from Governor Chris Christie. In Washington, D.C., Kimberly Wallace, FiOS 1 News.
All right, let's bring it to our panel now. And Jessica, we heard about Governor Christie, the latest on the investigation there. You're a Republican strategist. What's the next move for Chris Christie just in New Jersey, if not looking nationally? Can he just operate business as usual, or does he have to pay deference to this scandal?
Well, I think doing things like this definitely help because it's focusing the attention away. You know, presumably, obviously, reporters are always going to ask the question, but there's a bigger focus on jobs and, you know, bringing resources back to New Jersey. So I think it's fine. I mean, there's been so much circus. Who's investigating who? Which report is credible, not credible? He just needs to keep moving forward. So at the end of the day, if he is cleared, like he presumes to be, then he has major accomplishments along the way.
But from a style standpoint, can he bring the old Christie swagger back? Should he do that? Is there just no other way for him to operate?
He needs to stay authentic to who he is and why people elected him in the first place.
Well, we already know he spent over $300,000 in legal fees, so this has really hurt him. And then let's not forget the part that he spent of taxpayer dollars on that, quote, investigation that cleared himself. I say that sarcastically. The governor, based on what we're looking at, the way I see it, he needs to finish his term with dignity and move on with his life. But the presidential campaign is over. It's a non-starter. Non-starter.
So you're saying it's a non-starter?
Non-starter.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to cross the Hudson back to New York. Mayor Bill de Blasio had something of a heart-to-heart with Barbara Walters and the rest of the ladies on The View. Is his appearance just another move to boost his PR, which he vowed to improve, and will it do so? Our panel weighs in when we come back.